CVU School Board into session, and the first order of business is to elect a chair of the board for the following year. May I hear a nomination for chair?
Yes, I have a nomination. I'd like to nominate Holly now as chair.
Thank you very much. May I have a second for that nomination? Okay, are there any other nominations for the position of chair? Hearing none, all those in favor of having Polly serve as your chair for the next year? 7. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Madam Chair.
Oh, I get a gift?
Order of business is your autographed copy of the Vermont Education Law Book.
Oh,
And then you should reposition yourself.
Yes, and then
midnight
please,
reading.
please, Polly, come up here and
Okay, and I'll need support. Because as many times as you listen to like motions and all that, when does all that happen?
I'll help.
Okay, great.
He'll help by looking at Gene for help. That's what
I'll read from the list.
who you kidding?
Okay, so, what do we do next? We
Your
reorganize the
order of
board.
business is to elect the following positions and make the following appointments, where it says CVU.
Yep. Okay, so do I have a nomination for the vice chair?
I will oddly enough volunteer myself if Leah is okay with that. Really, my thinking is, we have a new board chair and a new principal. We don't have an outgoing board chair to help, so I'm happy to do it. Emeritus for a year.
Do I have a motion to,
I
do you
move
want to
that,
nominate?
I nominate Gene Jensen as vice chair, chairman vice.
Second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, I don't vote, right?
You can do it.
Okay. The next one we're
I
doing.
do want to thank Leah, because Leah used to have to do this for a long time, and I really appreciate the fact that you stepped in.
Okay, next we need a nomination for clerk. Do I have a motion to nominate somebody for clerk?
Do we have anybody willing to be clerk?
Anyone willing to be
I'll
clerk?
do it in a pinch, but I'd rather somebody else do it.
Gene?
I think I told Susan I'd be willing.
Oh, there we go.
Wonderful.
Solid.
Okay. Do I have a motion to nominate Jean as clerk?
Let's make it clear which Gene.
Jean
with the
Q.
With a G.
Sorry.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
And second?
Second.
Have we had an assistant board clerk in the past?
If your clerk is a regular traveler, it's nice to have an assistant clerk to keep the financial processes moving forward, but I will bow to the wisdom of those board members present.
I think Joan has been willing to do that in the past, so.
Okay. Would anyone like to nominate Joan as
So
being the
moved.
assistant clerk?
Yeah.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We didn't
So-
vote on Jean, did we?
Oh, yep, I forgot. We didn't vote on Jean. Can we go back and do all in favor of Jean being clerk, say aye?
Aye.
Sorry, I'm already screwing up.
It's never happened with Susan.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go to the committees. Our standing committees are finance, facility, communications, and policy. Do we need to have a negotiation committee this
Well-
year?
Are we doing administration?
My understanding is that the support staff negotiations are going to be continued by the people who are on that committee now. So we're not going to change them in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know if we have,
I'm on that committee.
so I guess we could, you could appoint Lorna just for completeness.
Okay. So, so we do need a negotiation.
So say the list again.
Finance, facilities, communication, policy, and negotiation.
And co-curriculars.
That's an ad hoc.
Oh, but it's still a committee.
I haven't gotten to the
Oh, okay.
ad hoc committees yet. Okay, for the finance committee, anyone interested in,
I'd be interested, and I actually have an interest in if the board would consider combining the Finance and Facilities Committee, because there's a lot of overlap, and mostly the Facilities Committee has, at this point, we have a list of work that needs to be done. We spend most of our time trying to decide how to pay for it. which we need the facilities, so we tend to have the meetings together. Might just be, at least give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, we can always go back to,
So are they gonna still be two standing committees, or are we gonna combine them to
I
one?
would just combine them.
I
Everybody
would
has a,
pre-
Do
I
we
would
have to
pref-
have a vote on that, combining of them?
Yes, it would be best to have a motion that says the new committee configuration is facilities and finance together
Okay.
as one group.
Can I just ask if there are any downsides to it that anybody can think of?
yeah, that's what I was kind of looking for, if anybody had any thoughts.
I know not being on the facilities, I am on the facilities, not on the finance. There's a disconnect of like where money's coming from, so eventually you do have to catch up with the finance committee. We had a facility/finance committee last month, and I thought it went really well. It made a lot of sense.
I don't know of any downside right at the moment with the makeup of in the work that's gone on in the two committees.
Yeah, that's what I
At
was
some
wondering
point in
about
time,
this.
if it became overwhelming and somehow the tasks differentiated, then you might want to reconsider it. But right now, it makes absolute sense, because to Gene's point, I'm likely calling 3 of the same 4 people to try and orchestrate both, so
Okay,
we would encourage it.
so do we have a motion to combine the facilities and the finance committee?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now who would like to be on that committee? Jean, Ray, Jean. Anyone else? Can I still be on it?
You're on all of them, kind of unofficially. You're an ex officio or something.
Okay.
So who was on that list, Madam Chair, besides yourself?
Jean,
All the genes.
All the Jeans.
and Ray,
And Polly.
and me.
Okay, good.
Okay. The next committee is the Communications Committee. Anyone interested in being on this?
I'd like to stay on it.
Leah and Kim?
We request that we have a community member of Susan Grasso.
Yep, and I don't know if anyone knew that, but Susan Grasso, as a community member, would like to stay in the communication.
And we're more than happy to keep her.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have a motion to nominate these?
You can just appoint.
Hmm?
You
Or-
can just appoint.
Okay, do I have a motion to appoint these people to the committee?
You just say, I appoint.
Just
you
do
I
to the
appoint them,
committee."
okay, great.
Magic wand.
This is your power.
This is
Don't
my
let it
power.
go to your head.
And the next committee is the Policy Committee. Anyone interested? Ray, are you even putting on your hand?
I'm
Your
giving
hand?
volunteering myself.
Lorna?
Oh, sure.
Lorna's currently on it.
Well, I just have to make sure she
Yep.
wants to do it again.
Yep.
I think 2 is a good idea.
Just 2? Okay.
That's fine.
Okay,
Well,
I
I mean,
appoint
where's
Ray
that
and
Murray?
Lorna to the committee, Policy Committee. And negotiations, Lorna, you're still interested? Okay. Okay, let's go to the ad hoc committees. The ad hoc committees are the co-curricular committee. I'm almost afraid to say this one, but what about the athletic fields committee? And there was something about a NISA, N-E-A-S.
Oh, the NEASC, yeah.
NEASC, but that committee was
That's-
formed in the last meeting.
Right,
So,
and, yep, I can give you the 4 names if you'd like, but,
I read the minutes, I
Okay.
can get it right from
Okay.
there. But we don't have to reform that.
no.
Okay.
No.
So, let's talk athletic fields. Are we going forward again, or are we gonna put this to rest? Are we?
My recommendation would be that we don't take an action on that tonight. I
Okay.
think there's something on the agenda we should talk through. I mean, it has to be addressed at some point, but we do have a facilities committee who could kind of plug the holes until we
Right,
decide how much.
if we need another committee. And then there's the ad hoc co-curricular committee. So far, it was me, Jean, and Jean. We've done so much work so far on it.
The upside, Polly, is you don't actually have to set the meetings for this meeting. They're already set, so scheduling meetings seem to be.
Okay. Jean, are you still interested? Both
Yes.
Jeans?
Yes. Can we just answer in tandem?
Yes. We'll never use it.
We'll work on getting the our rhythm.
And I'd still like to beyond that. Okay. Committees are formed.
CSSU?
Yep, that's the last thing, is we need
Oh, yeah.
4 CSSU school board reps appointed. Do these have to be motioned or not, or do we just?
Only, well, we have to vote if you have more than, I think, we should probably vote on these, I would
Okay.
guess. Yeah.
And also, I believe one of the action action items, I think, on the CSSU board is we have to get permission again for the 4th
Yep.
member.
So the current 4 would be the chair, Jean, Lorna, and
Joan.
And Joan.
And Joan she's late, stuck in the State House, but she would very much like to be on, be
Okay.
considered.
I guess the question is, is anybody else interested since
Right,
there are
is
4?
anybody else
Right.
interested?
Lorna, you still interested? And Jean Jensen.
Have we shy some new people today?
Our new Shelburne rep, is missing. John?
Uh,
Jeff Solomon.
Jeff Solomon.
Jeff.
Okay.
And
You want me to go
Marilyn's not
around
here.
the hall and
Marilyn's
see if
not
he's?
And I don't know if people know, but we are short 1 Williston representative.
Yeah.
We have to gang up on Kevin tonight then and have him find us somebody.
Right.
How does that work?
The Williston School Board appoints.
Right, they
Right,
appointed,
failing.
they'll probably put out something, a notice, or they could advertise maybe in the school bell, the front porch forum. Actually, I was thinking there was a person who got defeated from the Williston School Board, and I wondered if he was interested.
I've had a couple of people talk to me, they were interested, they just weren't ready to, like, stand outside and be the write-in candidate, so they took a chance, so I don't think it's gonna be that hard to find somebody, they just need to. That's how we got you, isn't it, Chief? That's how we got you. Didn't you have to go through the appointment, you got
That was
appointed?
appointed.
See what a good job the Williston School Board does?
Yeah, yours.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. I was eyeing that this whole time.
So we have reorganized the board, we have appointed all the committee members as well as the CSSU board reps. Next we go, are there any adjustments to the agenda? I don't believe there are. We'll move on to audience and
Are we gonna
communication.
have an executive session?
That's at the very end, I thought.
I'm just asking if we have one.
Yeah, it's at the very end.
I know it is there, I'm just saying, sometimes we don't have one. I'm just wondering
Yes,
if
we do have one.
We do have one.
Thank you.
Okay. Audience and communications? Polly?
Say hi to Polly.
I know Polly, she was one of my daughter's preschool teachers at the Montessori school.
Wow.
Wow.
I know Polly, she was one of my students.
Is this what we're doing? We're going around and explaining how we're gonna,
Just kidding, but
6 degrees to Kevin Bacon.
Okay. I think we can move on to 5.0 presentations.
Yes.
And that is school counseling and the guidance program. And I believe, who's presenting?
We've got
Got-
several people here to present to us. So yes, all of the boards are hearing from their counseling programs. So Patty is going to kick it off, and she's brought some folks with her.
So, my name's Patty Thomas, I'm one of the directors, and I work with the directions secretary. We have Mary Ann Gatos here, she's our community learning coordinator. She's also a licensed school counselor. We have Russ Aceto, who's one of our school counselors, and has been with us for CVU for how many years now, is it?
This is my 16th.
16th year. And we have Marie Eddy.
Tell me anything but late for dinner.
And Marie was hired last year, and we hired her as our school counselor, and also she has a career focus, which we felt really important for us to have that expertise within our department. So tonight's agenda, we're going to cover these 3 areas. And the first is we're going to talk a little bit about the CVU school counseling, the CSSU coordinated student health model. We'll share some information on some sample components of our program, and finally we'll end with our program highlights and future focus. So the CSSU school health is a model for providing consistent and comprehensive services for all of our students. As you can see from the diagram, the coordinated school health it encompasses 8 different components, with school counseling being one of them. There are times when the components intersect with each other, An example of that would be school counselors. We often work really closely with our health office or our school health services when we are supporting a student in that. And there are other times when, as a school counselor, we might end up working with an organization within like Howard Mental Health for family and additional community support. Within the school counselor component, we provide 3 different levels of support: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. An example of a Tier 1 example would be when we do large group intervention, and that would be when we go into a classroom and provide specific information that's addressed to the entire class. A Tier 2 example of an intervention would be when we work with small groups, and you'll be hearing about one of our examples later on this evening. It's a career and college awareness luncheon series. And a Tier 3 level of support would be when we are providing one-on-one support directly with a student, when a school counselor is meeting directly with a student. Another example would be a school counselor is meeting directly with a family member. Or there are times when, as a school counselor, we consult with a specific team. The CVU Direction Center designs and delivers programs and services that are aligned with our national standards. And the national standards are designed or actually defined by the American School Counseling Association. So just like you might hear about the next gen science standards or the math standards, school counseling has our own national standards that we use to guide our program. Over the last 3 years, we've been using data to drive our decisions and enhance our program. And tonight we're going to share with you 3 areas that Jeff suggested that we share with you as school board members. And the first will be about how do we go about facilitating post-secondary planning, how do we balance our counselor time providing indirect and direct service, and finally, what are we doing in terms of providing outreach services to all of our students, families, and community.
So first I'm going to talk about facilitating the post-secondary planning and curriculum component. ASCA, as Patty mentioned, is a national standards organization, and they have a process by which you become recognized as a model program. And that process requires you to use data to drive your decisions. So you make intentional decisions on programs that make a difference, and you use data to make sure that happens. One of the things we do know, we hear said a lot, is that schools are rich in data and poor in analysis. And so we're trying to work with that balance to use all the data that's available to us. Okay, what does the data tell us, and how can we use that data to enhance our programs? How do we know that what we're doing is actually making a difference? That's the continuous improvement model that's been used for generations in business, and it's also the growth mindset that you hear talked about. I mean, how do you create a learning organization? So we looked at post-secondary data. I'm just going to walk you through an example of how we looked at data and what we did with it. So we looked at some post-secondary data. This is self-reported from our seniors. 72.9% are planning to are going to college, and 78% in Naviance are accepted. So what happens often with data is it leads you to the next question. So what happens to that 5.1% who decide not to go, and do we know what they're doing? And this is where a personalized learning plan comes in, so we can start to document what is that gap. Is that a gap we should be helping with, or is that a gap that actually is expected and fine? What's happening there? What we do know is the net result is that 22% of our students actually don't have a documented plan for what they're doing, because we don't document a gap year. So for some students, a gap year, that's like when you talk to a consultant, it's actually really an unemployed person. You know, so a gap year is a person not going to college, but is it an intentional plan? And how can we help with that? Here's some more. So if we have over half of the students receive information about career exploration, so 10th grade and above. And also, only a little over a third of them receive information about college or training, post-secondary, 10th year and above. But what we found from looking at the senior survey is that over half of them said, we would like to see it earlier. If you ask kids in the 8th and 9th grade, students in the 8th and 9th grade, they're not going to say, oh, you tell me all about college in the 8th grade. But when we asked seniors and we looked at that data, they said, you could have started telling me about it earlier. So consequently, what do you do with that? So what's the plan? Looking at data is fun, but then what do you do, and how do you make a difference? So a couple of things, this slide's going to share a couple of things that we now move in that direction, how do we change what we do. So we're improving the referral process. The referral process is coordinating with ascending middle school counselors so they can identify students that they believe need support early on to even start to think about what they're doing after high school. You know, not just how to survive high school, how to make the best of it, but also actually to do some forward thinking. We also start to plan earlier. So we saw that data point about wishing they had it in 8th and 9th, so now we actually start to look at how do you do that. We also look at how to provide information in multiple ways. We know by the size of our school that we really need to use the website, the announcements, different ways in which to contact students, the advisor, the counselor, favorite teacher. We go through the parents, evening presentations, things like that. Oops. I missed that one. And the last thing is multiple pathways. You know, that's a new education term that we use. Basically, it means how can we provide different experiences for students. So they have many different ways in which they can experience learning. These are just a few examples. And they all meet different needs of different students at different times. So the idea is how to do that. Whoops. I'll click for it.
Okay, so some of the data that was discussed and found to be, well, we need to work on this area, was career counseling. So what we started this year, well, actually last year it was planned and developed, and this year we started teaching a semester-long career planning course designed to answer the 3 essential questions that we all must answer in life. Who am I? What do I want to be when I grow up? And what do I have to be? What do I have to do to be what I want to be? So, but we don't say that to the students. We say self-exploration, career exploration, career planning. And this course is co-taught by myself and Colleen Wedge, who is a business teacher. And students take it for half a credit, and it does count towards graduation requirements as a practical arts credit. In the fall, we had 22 students taking it, and this spring we have 18 students. And I think it's been a very positive experience, speaking from my part. Another thing we're doing is partnering with Community College of Vermont to offer Intro to College Studies here on site at CVU. Now, Community College of Vermont has been offering this free course to high school students called Intro to College Studies for years now. And ideally, they would like students to go onto their campus to experience college. But what we found was students were having transportation difficulties getting to the campus, and there was a lot of students dropping out. They'd start and then say, this is too difficult, and they stop. So this semester, we brought CCV here to us. And we have 15 students taking Intro to College Studies. It is a free course, so it doesn't get college credit, but CVU gives 1 credit to students who successfully complete Intro to College Studies. And we have 15 students taking it this semester. It meets 1 night a week from 3:30 to 5:30 for 13 weeks. And the topics covered in Intro to College Studies are note-taking, test-taking, study skills and time management, identifying career options and goals, and making informed decisions about post-secondary education. It also covers things like personal finance and how to pay for college. And another thing that we are doing is, starting this week, Marianne and I are facilitating a luncheon series. It's going to be an 8-week series. We have divided it into a series for sophomores and a series for juniors based on some information that we got from somebody who said they're at 2 different stages. So divide them up and offer the same, it's the same curriculum, but on 2 different days. So the luncheon series. The focus is to answer the why, what, where, when, and how of pursuing education after high school. And students can register. We've had students, we asked them to email us. So far we've had 12 sophomores and 3 juniors email us, but it's also open to walk-ins, and we fully expect to see people coming in with their friends. And at the end of the 8-week series, we will develop certificates of completion for these students. And we'll just say, you know, Susie attended 6 out of 8 of the College and Career Awareness Lunchtime Series, that kind of thing. So some of the topics, or the topics that we're offering, and this is based on, we did some research with the National Association of College Admissions Counselors and other sources for inspiration, and we came up with 8 topics to start out with. Topic number 1, why go to college? Topic number 2, what do I do if I don't want to go to college? Topic number 3, what is a gap year? Topic number 4, where can I find information about colleges? Topic number 5, how do I decide what to major in? Topic number 6, how do I take advantage of opportunities while still in high school? Topic number 7, how do I find a job? And topic number 8, so what is the timeline? What do I need to be doing to prepare for going to college or getting more training after high school? And so, again, these 3 initiatives by the counseling department, they all kind of coincide with the design and development of the personal learning plans that are being rolled out next fall.
Another thing that we took a look at, so we were just
Sorry,
talking
you guys
about.
are skipping to the next, go to the next topic, right? I just had a question. What do we do for kids who aren't gonna go to college? Who just really aren't, they really wanna be technicians or something?
Right, well, can I tag
Yeah,
on that?
yeah.
Another related question is, what do we do for students with low aspirations? Because it sounds like a lot of these initiatives, I'm sure counselors might recommend that certain students participate in them, but the students who tend to be less likely to go to college are probably also less likely to go to those things, so, or maybe not.
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The-
no, go right
okay.
ahead.
Community College of Vermont, they looked at their data and they saw that 23% more students go on to post-secondary education after taking intro to college studies.
Yeah.
And this is from an at-risk group, students who weren't planning to go on. Pathfinders is developed, it's developed for all. We really believe in inclusiveness, everybody. But students who may not have aspirations for post-secondary education are encouraged to take Pathfinders. We have, I just looked at the data today, 66 students put it on their course request for next year.
Yeah, double
Pretty
from
good.
last year. which is
Yeah.
great. Yeah, the point of Pathfinder too is it's not all about going to college, it's about finding other things to do when you leave high school. Apprenticeship programs, maybe going directly to work. If you're going to go directly to work, how do we help you get that resume ready? How do we help you with interviewing so that you can interview for a job? If you're choosing to take that gap year to do, and if you're on our website, you'll see all the choices of different options for gap year that we know of, and I'm sure there's much more. But following that experience, what's next? We do know that not every student is ready and want to go to college right away, and we want to be sensitive to that. And that was why Pathfinder was created, and that's why we brought it to all of you, the school board, last year and asked you to approve it. It really is to try to meet the needs of all students, and we're really focused. Again, we're talking about those 22%. That we're concerned about that. It's great to look at the higher percentage that go on and go to college, but what about those other students? And then also looking at the National Student Clearinghouse data. How many stay and can get done in 4 years versus 5 years and 6 years or 7? We do have that data too, but we haven't actually looked at it in as much detail as we have in these other data at this point.
It's also a really integrated approach. We'd love to hit on like the one thing, like this luncheon series is grab your lunch, come on in for a discussion. We'd love to hit on one thing and have a lot of students. And the reality is, we have the LIFE program, we have the luncheon series, which we deliberately called College and Career Awareness. It's not just about going to college. And Marie and I have talked about, it's not our job to talk kids into going to college. It's our job to help facilitate an exploration so that they can find the right match and intentionally plan their path. And I think we also keep that awareness alive when looking at this PLP and how that develops. That although we often measure that college going rate, and it actually is an easy number to capture because we help them apply, we realize how important it is to look at what that is, which is what the data is about. Try to figure out what's happening to the 6% that, you know, applied and decided not to go, or at least didn't report that they were going, or maybe it's only 2%, you know, what happens to the students who choose not to go? And then what other opportunities are there? And how do we advertise those opportunities, you know? I mean, a thing came across my desk today for, you know, Pike Industries having a career fair, you know, so how do we get that out? And it's hopeful that the PLP process will allow us to identify students with their goals and, you know, alert them to those opportunities. I mean, that's what we hope for.
I have a question about your advertising. Did you send that email about the luncheon series to all the students?
No, we sent it to sophomores and juniors.
Okay, well, that's what I meant.
Yep.
The other
the
interesting, that
parents.
was very clever, is I got a copy of it too.
Yeah, we did that intentionally for families too.
Oh.
So we'll keep going.
We
on.
did. We
I was
sent
like,
it
what
to
is
them. Because it's up, you know, we really, it's up for the parents who, you know, do something.
And I thought that was, I thought that was
We
great.
intentionally
Because as a
did that
parent,
to
I
reach
emailed
out
it
to
to my daughter
parents so
a
that they
second
could
time
help.
to say,
you
look at
know,
this, get your friends to go with you.
So I will tell you, 2 parents responded saying, can we go?
Well, one of the things that confused me is I thought I was supposed to go with my daughter or something.
So this is another side of our work, and we wanted to share, this will be brief. The next couple of slides have data on them, and we're not gonna go through all the data, but it's just to show you our analysis experience. So we're looking at balancing our counselor time, and ASCA, again, recommends, and they have a target percentage for how much time we spend in direct and indirect service to students versus like program planning and administration stuff. And they have the 80-20 kind of target. So we took a look at, you know, so where are we? And what we did, and this is just an example, is we looked at each of our counselors has a counselor agreement, and they have an estimated time on how they spend their time. This is just one example of one counselor, and we color-coded. A student, a senior in our school, created this tool for us to track our data from our Google Calendar, bless his heart.
Yeah.
And this is a result of it, so I'm not gonna go through this, but I wanted to give you an example that we look at it. So we look at it to say, you know, it's great if you do tons of planning, but if we're doing 60% of our time of planning and less percent of our time in direct or indirect service to students, then we're failing. So we were pleasantly surprised that we're really close to the target range here. You know, we kind of go up and down depending on counselors. What we did is we looked at 3 2-week periods. And we did this to collect data so that we could, you know, assess our program.
And we can, and Russ can, one of our counselors had to do that detailed work. And I know you thoroughly loved it, but it
ASCA
did-
doesn't like the fact that I keep my personal calendar the same as my work calendar. So the fact that in April, the entire department went for pedicures, and that happened to be the 2-week window that ASCA was looking for.
We had submitted for, we did an application that took us about 3 years to complete, and we delivered it to ASCA to recognize our program. So we hopefully will be getting those results very soon. And that was a comment. One of them was, you know, oh, you got a pedicure on that, you know. So we've been giving Russ lots of a big hard time over that.
That's indirect, I think.
So the next area that Jeff suggested that we talk with you briefly, and I'll make it real quick, is outreach activities. And again, what does the data tell us? How can we use that to enhance our program? And that's just to show you that we do evening
presentations.
Evening pedicures.
So where do we get our data? How do we know what to do? And we used the senior self-report surveys that our seniors completed. We looked at the 2012, 13, and 14. We also looked at our Naviance data. We also looked at the VSAC senior survey of 2010 and 2012. 2014 isn't in yet. It should be in the next week. And then we did start 2.5 years ago, and Polly's on that with us, thank you very much, our CVU Direction Center Advisory Council. And it's made up of students and faculty and school board member, and we have UVM on there as well. We're also reaching out to 2 other businesses. And that advisory council has been really great. We've met 3 or 4 times. I think we met 4 times last year. And doing another meeting again 4 times this year. And that group has been our advisory council for working with us on giving us ideas on how to improve our program. So based on that advisory council, they suggested a couple of things. The first was, you know, when we do evening meetings, you know, doing them at 5:30, that where we might like them at 5:30, really for families and students, the students said 7 o'clock is best. Because if we're participating in an after-school activity, students said, I want to get home, I want to get something to eat, you know, maybe start my homework, and then I can come in at 7. But doing it at 5:30 doesn't work. You know, doing it at 6 o'clock, you know, doesn't work. So the data suggested that
that we communicate in a variety of ways. And the Direction Center website, if you haven't been on it, I really encourage you. It is an incredible amount of information and data that has, parents don't need to buy those books on how do I apply to college or how do I search a college. That stuff's already on. We've got it on there. We've contacted authors. They've approved us to put it right on our website. And that came from our advisory council. We've also used the CVU website. We use daily announcements. We send those Naviance email alerts. Polly, you just said you got one. There you go. It worked great. We put posters up. We do whatever we can to try to communicate with our families and students. We were encouraged to facilitate more evening presentations and actually do those evening presentations for not just what we had traditionally done. We did a senior morning breakfast one, and then we always did the junior college panel night, which was January of the students' junior year. Well, parents and students said, you know what, I'm feeling anxious junior year. Can you do something in the fall? Can you do something in September? And so we did, and then we also were asked, can you do something for sophomores? So we're really trying to use our data to try to improve our program, and those are just some examples.
What's Naviance?
Say again?
What's Naviance?
Naviance is our, I'll let Russ, you're our Naviance expert. Let you say something since I'm doing all the
Historically,
talking.
Naviance, it started off as the tool that students were using to do college searches. It's a place where we can warehouse historical data about where did students apply, where did they get accepted, and they can, students can compare themselves against, current seniors can compare themselves against former students. So you get more of that apples to apples comparison. My GPA and my test scores, how does that compare to CVU students who've been accepted to Dartmouth, BC, whatever?
A database.
It's a database, but it's also a place, that's kind of how it started. It's now the tool that we use to send all of the application data to schools. So anything, letters of recommendation, transcripts, all that stuff gets sent electronically to schools. And it's, I went to a conference a couple years ago and brought some ideas back, and which Marianne and Patty and a couple of us have run with. It is now the tool that we're kind of using as the PLP tool, because there's a great career database in there, a way to search for different career options for students. There's a whole courses section for students to be able to plan and track their credits towards graduation and courses they want to take. So it really is a way for them to, an electronic PLP is essentially kind of what it's morphed into over the last 12 years.
And the AOE and BSEC have now endorsed using Naviance as the PLP tool. So we felt really fortunate that we've been using it for so long, and now we're able to use it and use it to its full functionality. Future highlights and program highlights and future focus. We're going to continue to stay involved in working with American School Counseling Association, and we're really hopeful that we'll get our certification passed. We did get our results in February. We had a score of 54. We got a 51.6, which was a big win. We thought we'd get maybe 30 points, but we were invited to resubmit and get clarify a few points.
Without the pedicure on there.
Without the pedicure. And hopefully we'll know by the second week of April whether or not our school has had that national recognition. If so, that we would be the first in the state of Vermont. And so that would be a really big win for us and for what the work the school counselor's done, because it's really all about them and the students. We're going to be focusing on implementing personalized learning plans, and you're probably all aware of that. Continued analysis of the data that we have and continue to use that to improve our program. And finally, certainly focusing on professional development for us counselors. The college admissions just itself, that continues to change. There's some really great programs out there. Even through UCLA, they now have a certificate program, so you can get certified in how to really be a college admissions counseling professional. There's Marie's has the Global Career Development Facilitator certification. It's a pretty rigorous program, and you walk away with that being an expert in really helping students identify careers. So that will be continued work that we'll do as well. So with that being said, we have Marie, Russ, and Marianne and I here to help answer any questions that you might have.
Do we have time for a few questions? Please.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks very
Wow,
much.
that's efficient. You don't have a question, that's good. You did, yeah. We usually put them where we want to put them, the questions. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we're on to reports to the board, and we're on time here. Principal's report, Jeff?
Sure. And it looks like we don't have a student rep, so I'll do both, even though I'm not prepared to do the student one, but I'll come up with a few things. Just a few highlights I'd like to point out. Today, we had our MAPS 10 afternoon, so it was a half day so that 10th graders could meet with their advisors and parents to talk about their experience thus far in these 2 years and start a little bit about future planning. We've got all our requests for schedules in the next year, and so that drove some of the conversation. And it's a great opportunity for advisors to connect with family members of their 10th graders. And it also serves as the structure that we will use to transition into PLPs beginning in November of next year for all freshmen. And so a lot of the structures are in place already. The next thing is SBAC is coming. We have a very busy April coming up, which includes 4 SBAC days and our first experience with SBAC. So we've got a committee really working hard on preparing students. Students this week started doing practice tests, working with the technology, getting used to the technology, being trained with some of the technology. And we've established the 4 days that we're going to administer the exams. As I said, course scheduling, we've got all our numbers and we're working on creating course schedules for students. And now that we have the data, we'll start putting that into the computer and start creating schedules for students. And then finally, we have 6 positions to fill, so we're gonna have a busy April in terms of it being the hiring season. Tomorrow, Program Council meets.
Hey, excuse me, Jeff.
Sure.
Are we talking about reducing any positions due to retirements and students and stuff?
The budget, you know, that was all part of the budget discussion. Right now, we've not reduced any positions that I can recall. Okay.
I was confused by the design tech, why it's a half to a 1.
Yeah, it was a little tricky, but what we're thinking is that we were a little concerned about what we would get for a pool, and also we have a teacher who is dual certified, who's teaching some design tech courses and math. He would have the ability to become a full-time design tech. So our approach is, let's look at the pool. We advertise for 0.50 to 1.0. Once we look at the pool and interview them, if we're very impressed with the candidate, we're likely to offer him or her a 1.0 and leave that other person in the position he's in. If not so much, then we may trim it back to 0.5 and then slide the other person over.
So I have a question on the Chinese. We're not adding a person.
No,
She's
she's leaving. Her husband got a job in Massachusetts. We just learned that. Yep.
I just want to go back to the design tech thing, just out of curiosity, like, do you think it's a different pool if you're advertising a half-time versus a full-time?
Yeah, we give a lot of thought to that, and that's one of the reasons we advertised half to full. Based on the applicants that we've got so far, we think we've got some of what we were looking for, but it is early in the process. Okay, so that's what I had, and but I'll slide down a little bit of the students' news. We've certainly had a good last couple of weeks with some students. Our boys Nordic ski team won the state championship, varsity girls basketball once again, and we had 2 students become debate state champions, which is awesome. And we had Molly Parker, who was once again won another award, and she's a wonderful student who's really accomplished great things. So we're quite proud of her accomplishments. Yes?
I was a little confused about the PLPs and when you hope to start. You said something about November. Does that mean starting the next round? And
yeah, November of 2015 is when all freshmen have to have a PLP.
Okay.
And so we're actually going to be giving a presentation to the board, I believe it's next month, on our plan to do that.
Okay.
But we also have a PLP committee formed, and they've chosen Naviance as the tool and have some structures in place, and we'll be sharing some of that information with you pretty soon. But yes, the mandate is that all freshmen, starting in 2015, have a PLP. And then every year you add another class.
So the freshmen, when they're in their sophomore year, would begin?
No, they will start their plans their freshman year. So this year's 8th graders, when they come into CVU, they will start creating their plans.
Okay.
You're not
on their
doing PLPs retroact, like juniors and seniors aren't having PLP, okay.
No, but to take a dual enrollment course, you must have a PLP. So there will be some juniors and seniors, sophomores, who will have to create PLPs in order to do a dual enrollment course.
Okay.
Okay. That's what I have. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Can we get the student council brief?
Yeah, that's what I had with some student news, so that was
And
a
are
brief
there
debrief.
any committee reports? Okay, that means we're moving on to discussion matters, 7.0. And the first one were 7.1 are policies. And everyone had a chance to read the policies. And this is where I'm confused. What do? We just discuss
What I'm gonna do is write down any thoughts you have and bring it back to the policy committee in a couple of weeks. So you can read here what our initial thoughts are for a first reading. And, you know, it depends on where you are. For instance, we didn't think anything was needed for 18-year-old students, F18. And you can see that in here. Eligibility for kindergarten, that obviously is, we tried to not have that at CVU.
I was wondering why that was in
We like to be inclusive, but
But they do need to have a PLP in place.
do you want to do sandbox today? Pasting tomorrow. We'll work on it.
Lauren, I got really confused about what all these Vermont statutes were.
There are a lot of state statutes, especially about admissions of students, who you have to admit to go to a particular school. Whether if you're a ward of the state, or if you just moved in, or, you know, in your foster homes, exactly what the situation is. So one of the suggestions that was made at the committee was to reference the statutes. And I looked at it and I go, I'll trust you on this one. It's required, certain things are required, and so she was just cross-referencing.
Those little asterisks next to the one.
The little stars
Okay.
next to, you know, particular.
So if I have some comments on the policies, I should contact you?
Or bring them up now, and I'll just take notes and I'll bring it to the policy
But he's on
committee.
the policy committee.
Oh, okay, well then, yeah.
But if you have any, as a board member, I'd like to discuss if you have some
I
issues.
think so.
Well, the only issue I have actually, Lorna, was about kindergarten,
Okay,
which probably don't want to. It's a little bit, you know, outside of our
Purview.
well,
Yes, that's the word.
well, why don't you tell me what it is, and I'll just bring it up at our next meeting. And-
Why don't I
or
just
you bring it-
email you,
Okay,
and then,
that's fine.
I did notice that everybody's going to our, is it the admission policy?
Yeah.
The one that we argued over for 3 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
Must have done a good job.
Yep, that came
It
out.
looked good, yeah, everybody's happy with it.
I had a comment on the last paragraph in the admissions student. The underlying paragraph, starting with however, no resident will be denied. It has basically two sections, one can't be denied based on disability, and then the next sentence,
Right.
nor will any child be denied based on sex, creed, color, national. Can those be separated?
We could separate them if that,
Just
The
because
reas- yeah,
the
what's-
second sentence follows the first sentence on a disability, and those things aren't disabilities.
okay, so the implication being, because they're in the same paragraphs, it's as if we're saying
I had
that
to
some of
read it
these
twice
things,
for that.
okay,
I know they're not, but
okay, I like that.
I have a question on the fundraising policy. Is this a blanket? I just found this very interesting, based upon what we were trying to do when we built the committee to fundraise the turf fields. And knowing that there was this policy out here, and maybe we bent it a little bit. I don't know.
I don't know if we did either.
But when we set up the athletic field
Community fundraiser.
Community fundraiser.
Which part do you think?
Where did I see that? The school board cannot supervise or control the fundraising activities of an autonomous organization.
Oh, we certainly didn't, trust me.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we didn't do that when
No,
we were
there-
doing that.
No,
Because, you know, if we ever do a fundraiser similar to that, you know, make sure that we're within the fundraising the policies.
Yeah, I think we did talk about it in really my assignment as being part of that committee was to make sure that they didn't do something the board wouldn't support.
Okay.
That was really my.
And there's been previous conversation about naming opportunities and stuff, and that's very different and very not public school protocol. So if we ever change something, but I am sensitive to this, and I was making sure in my own mind, I didn't bring that up, because we've got our legal counsel, we've got our administration, and they know what it is. Yeah, I really, to have in a public meeting saying, did we stretch it, is no, absolutely not. And if you thought that, then it needs to be brought up then, so that we're not compromised at all. But in my mind, we weren't, and.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, in fact, that was why I was on the board.
Truth in negotiations, Jeff and I keep groups like that on a relatively short leash as well, making sure that whatever is happening isn't going to begin to present a problem for either us or the school or the board. And that particular effort warranted some reflection on his and my part at the end of it on how we might keep the leash a little shorter the next time, if that's a good way to put it. We kind of took notes at the end and said we don't want to kind of go there again or do this again. So that happens too. It's not just the board's overview as well.
Well, do you think, given all that, we should maybe have some discussion around there and clarify it in case this comes up again in a big way?
No, I personally don't think it's in policy. I think it's just he and I talking about things as they're proceeding and evolving. Is that way of doing transactions going to work, or do we need to tell them in the beginning that no, this is how we do it, and then stick to it? For example, we wouldn't the next time we would probably not endorse a returns donation policy at the end of an effort. Once people make a donation to the school, we're thinking it should be a donation to the school, period. Because that little process got a little bit cumbersome for everyone.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's things like that. We just paused and said, you know, given we're gonna do it again here in another year, this is how we do it the second time around.
Does anyone have any more comments about policies that they can give Lorna? Any more comments? Okay, we're gonna move on to 7.2, the budget debrief. Yay, the budget passed.
I have a couple of comments, just because I always put this on, then I sit here going, you know, what did we talk about? Once the budget's done, I just like forget it, but I did try to take some notes this year. We had a remarkably, sorry Jeff, we had a remarkably easy budget year, right? I mean, we had retirements and a debt payment reduction, and special ed was down, at least, you know, in the budget. We had a fund balance to cover the other part of it. We had a pretty remarkably comfortable year. Not that it was, I mean, it still was a stretch at the end, but it was, next year, a lot of those things we won't have, and we're gonna have 50 fewer students. And just something to think about, maybe we should talk about it on the agenda next month, is that we may need to do some thinking ahead before we run into our first meeting in December 1st. You know, if we have to take $300,000 or $400,000 out of the budget, I don't know that we really had, the new calendar that we're working with does not really give us enough time to make really hard decisions, I don't think. And I don't know if we, how to prep that.
I mean, the new budget calendar, or budget workshops.
Because we have one fewer meeting, and so we had like 3 whole meetings this time, and I think it was doable because,
It was an easy budget.
relatively easy.
you know, Jeff brought a one sheet with, these are your options, and we kind of said, okay, and moved on, but if we'd had to be making decisions about reducing staff, or we want to revisit the entire staffing for the whole school, you know, to see if the board's, if it's where we think it should, whatever we decide, you know, the board needs, any hard work could not happen in December.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah, so I don't really know how to get around that, but we should probably give a little bit of thought.
Okay.
So are we gonna put this on the agenda for next month then, or?
Well, we have an agenda meeting at the beginning of next month, and we can discuss it at that point, and
That or on the
you
retreat.
know, I agree with Jean, and, you know, if it is gonna be a tougher year next year, we might wanna start thinking of you know, I don't wanna say reductions, but,
At least some bigger questions that we,
Right.
information that we have, making sure. that-
you know, we might be making facilities, pushing off facility things or stuff like that.
We might have constraints from the state too, so, right?
Very,
So
very serious.
pretty likely that, do
Big
you
issues.
think we will? Yeah, in terms of finding, what do you think there, Joan?
You know what, I don't know. There will be changes, I don't know if there will be.
So that's gonna be important.
There were two things that I think we maybe could have done better. One is, you know, I had my little model in my pocket, but I didn't really share it with anybody until probably a meeting later than we thought, you know, the one where we started talking about what cases and all that kind of stuff. But think about how we do that more effectively. It's not my model, it's Bob's numbers, I just put them in a spreadsheet. The facilities, Bob, we got off a little, you and I, that was my fault as much as yours. We kind of missed a facilities meeting and we didn't have the facilities, we hadn't reviewed the facilities stuff beforehand. And then there's just kind of this list of things that we probably should decide if we want to come back on, that kind of questions came up, like the ones I jotted down where this, you know, the board just might need more information, like the virtual high school issue. I looked at my notes and said, oh yeah, that's what Jeff told us, but I'm not really sure I've got it in my head. This dual enrollment, and if we co-teach, the finances are different. We talked about coaches, maybe the curricular committee ought to think about the coaches, those coaches. And there was a question about AP classes, whether or not we've got enough of them. So there was kind of like a lot of questions that come up during budget that we put in a drawer.
Okay.
So, what I could probably do, Polly, is just make
Email
my
me your
notes
list.
legible.
Email me your
And then
list.
then we can decide which we want to put on the work plan.
Okay. Any more budget debrief info? The next,
Our budget passed by a huge margin
yeah,
again, which is
Yeah.
very interesting, very nice to see that.
Yeah.
That kind of community support split.
this, next item, 7.3 on the agenda, the Loop Company offer. I know that Jean and I, and maybe Bob know about this, and Jeff. It was a company that approached, who's Peter? That was
Peter
Dan-
Coffey and Chap.
And
Dan
Shep. And it was, this company, it's called the Loop Company, they do, marketing research, and they put it out there that they would do, a pro bono work to, find out why the turf fields didn't pass, or also what people, you know, did they know, did they have all the correct information before they voted, and so forth. And we haven't gotten back to them, whether we would accept their offer, because I think it needed to be discussed first.
Why are they offering it? What's their
Um,
commitment? Nothing's for free.
I think the reason they're offering is, I'm assuming that the person isn't part of the community, the CVU, or at least in one of the,
I know it's related to doing a study about some indoor facilities, I think. Is that-
Are you guys
that was
looking
the
at me like
connection?
I got
Yeah.
one email from you and said, sounds
Yeah.
good to put
Sounds
on the
good to me.
agenda?
Yeah, indoor facilities, and just made the offer to Peter and Shep, hey, we're doing this thing for indoor facilities. We can poll your community members and ask them why they voted the way they voted.
Right.
So we decided to put it on the agenda.
yeah. So this is one of the sentences, or one of the paragraphs, I am reaching out to offer at no charge to work with the CVU Turf Field Committee to develop a survey that would enable the board/committee to gather feedback from the community to determine potential next steps regarding the CVU turf field. And she's just said, let me know your thoughts.
So there's no rush for this? Because we put on the agenda for next time to talk about fields more, is that what we did?
No,
Earlier,
we just
talked,
didn't put a committee together.
Right, we didn't put a committee together.
so I feel like this might warrant more time and exploration, but that's just me.
But
Well,
my-
I think
My
what-
understanding of what you read there is that putting the survey together would be pro bono, but administering the survey and analyzing the results, I can assure you will not be. And I'm not sure, I think we've done some good survey work here as a group. I'm
I
not
would,
sure.
I would completely disagree. I think we've never done a good survey.
I
And
like
honestly,
it.
my
Your surveys
concern
would be
is,
good.
that I don't really know if the turf field went down by 100 votes, if it went down because the community doesn't want turf, or because they don't want another bond.
They don't want
Really, if
another
I
bond.
need
Another
to know that,
bond.
I feel like I need to have that information in order to decide next steps. If somebody gave us $700,000 tomorrow and we put the field in, would that go against what the community wants because they don't want turf? You know, or if I, you know, or, you know, if we decide to put a $700,000 bond on ballot next year in order to do natural grass improvements, is that gonna go down because people are saying, how many times do I need to tell you, I don't want another bond? You know, I really feel like I don't know. And so, you know, this is truly free. If it's not truly free, I'm with you. That'd be an easy question to ask. But people, you know, lawyers and stuff do pro bono work.
So would it be worth, Paula, you getting back to them to ask them, you know, is this for not just coming up with a survey, but also analyzing the data and the rest of it? Basically trying to find out, will there be a cost down the road or not? And then discussing their result at the next, if you guys have another.
So I guess where I'm a little confused is who would actually talk with these people? Would we have them come here and maybe Shep and facilities committee people?
You know, I don't know what I have to add. I have the question, which is,
Mm-hmm.
what does the community want? How does the community want to move forward on this? That's the
Right,
question.
do you want us to explore it further, or do you want us to drop it?
I would explore it further, because I'm very curious, if Shelburne hadn't had the bond it had at that same time, would it have passed or not? I don't know. Or is it people are fine with improving fields, but they really don't want turf, they just want natural? Or maybe they're just interested and they're not interested at all, I don't know.
In athletic facilities, maybe.
The other thing is if these folks are looking at private indoor fields, what piece does that play into this questionnaire? Because if they want data to say, yes, an indoor field would really take off well, that's one way of interpreting data. So I don't know why
You're all
they've
skeptics.
come to us.
You're all skeptics.
And I'm being quiet.
No,
I'm really
but
skeptical.
it changes, what they want to know is different.
What, if there's an underlying motivation that is unclear, I think.
I mean, because we had Farpost, I think, or Nordic come when we were initially talking about our fields, and they were interested in utilizing our fields, and were we gonna charge? So does this play into that?
Well, so perhaps what we should do is some people who have questions about their motives should meet with them.
Their presentation, not that they're gonna be bad people. I think it's important to know.
I would feel fine about them coming and meeting with us, or subcommittee, I don't know, whatever makes the most sense.
Do you want them to come and have a small presentation at the board in the next over the next few months?
I think it would make more sense for a small committee to meet with them, and then for those of us who aren't on the committee, if I have a specific question, like, do we get to review it? Like, if they ask the question, oh, do you want an indoor facility? And I'm thinking, wait, this is totally not what we're interested in really knowing. Do we have the option of taking that question out? So if that's my question or concern, can I forward that question to other people who would then maybe
Well, I was
smaller
kind of
group.
thinking you and Leah ought to be the ones to interview them because you seem to have real concerns about it, so. I mean,
I mean,
I
if
think it's
if they have a plan, they probably have a questionnaire already sort of figured out. I mean, maybe that's a different way of doing it, is ask to see what they intend to ask the community, and then we ask them questions based on what they're proposing asking. To me, I would put the work on them. There's, at this point, show us what kinds of questions you plan to ask and how you plan, and then I don't mind meeting with them, but I don't know how you feel about it. But I think they should do that work first and show us what they're thinking about.
Well, we'll figure out how to move on from here, whether it's they give us a formal presentation that we can distribute to the group. But somebody's gotta meet with them to initially, start the ball rolling. And just by that, I meant see what they're all about. Okay. We go on to action matters. I think we're done with 7.0 and on to 8.0. Do I have to have a motion to open this up? Do I have a?
Approve the,
I need a motion to affirm the code of conduct.
Pardon me?
I need a motion to affirm the code of conduct and
Okay. I need a motion to affirm the code of conduct. I think that those were included in your packet.
so moved.
Second?
Now we discuss it.
Okay.
Any
We have a
discussion?
discussion. I think we see this every year at this time.
So my
for-
question is, since Jeff is a new board member, is not here yet, would he do this at a separate time, or,
There is a new board member training that happens and we go through it then.
okay.
And my only other one is that I noticed when I was looking it over and comparing it to the CSS. Ours are unique because we do everything that's unique. 'Cause someday, Lorna, everyone will come and use our code of conduct, right? But the very first one on the code of ethics, remember always that our primary concern must be the educational welfare of the students. Perfectly fine, it's just that the CSSU one, I think, is interesting because it says, from there it goes, in my district, an excellent return on investment for taxpayers. I just think it would be interesting to add that. But what I'll do, I think we should just approve it tonight, and then maybe I can slip it in as something we can discuss another night to see if we want to adjust it for next year. Okay, I just thought it was interesting, I don't see why they shouldn't line up, but that's just a comment. I'm willing to vote on it the way it stands today.
I like that comment, and that taxpayer is our customer.
It does say
It is.
primary, and then you say primary and you have two of them, that seems a little strange to me,
It is
but.
the student.
yeah.
Okay, so do we have a motion to?
We already did.
We did.
Okay,
Is there any other discussion?
all those in favor then?
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody? Okay, approved school choice numbers. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second. I
Okay.
don't think I had these in my packet.
There was nothing in my packet.
There's nothing in there? Okay. Then it is the same as the last couple of years, which is 40 students out is our maximum, 30 students in. We're nowhere near the 40 out, by the way. It's more like 14, but we are full on the in. We had the lottery today for our school choice numbers.
How many applied for in?
We had 6 openings this year because 30 total, but we only have 6 people graduating and 15 applications.
Is it like a college admission?
It's lottery. Reach in and pull it out.
It's not
That's
an
it. That's
ambiance?
it. That's it.
How often are you at the max?
Well, now this is only the second year, I believe, into the new formula, and we've been at our max each year.
And how
Maybe
often
third year.
are you not at your max for out?
We haven't come close
That's,
in the years that I've dealt with it.
that's good data.
Okay, then all those in favor of the 40 out and 30 in, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one? Okay, the ayes have it. Field trips, can we do these all in one fell swoop, or do you want to talk about each individual one?
I have an issue with the Galapagos one, so we do the other ones and then do Galapagos.
Anyone have issues with any of the other field trips?
I'm sorry, I didn't, what do you have in addition?
The Galapagos.
I'd like to discuss the Galapagos one.
I had a question on funding. They're all funded by parents and fundraising, they don't all specifically say it.
Yes.
Yes.
And then my other one was, what if they do not meet all CVU rules and regulations while on the trip?
The same thing that would happen if they violated while here. The same policies would apply.
But can they be sent home?
Yes, they can. They can.
Okay, so then can we have a motion then to approve the French, Dominican, Italian, and Denmark trip?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Well, my question with all of these is always, like, what are the opportunities for students who can't financially go
Yep.
attend these trips? And so I want to know what the spaces are available to students with financial constraints.
So what we have in place is policy that allows students to apply for financial aid in terms of helping them pay for this, and we have a scholarship fund that supports that. And right now, typically, each trip is awarded $2,000 to split among students as they see fit. If there were a case where special need arose, we would address that on an individual basis. Currently, that's the structure that's in place.
Has that been used very often?
Yes.
Do we ever run short and people find they can't go even though the scholarship fund has all been used and people have not been able to?
No. No.
You said we had $2,000 per trip?
Yes.
Yeah. I have, one is I did not see my special request every year, school board trip.
Yes. I always forget.
I
I've only been here one time to hear that.
I look for it every time. The other one, not to be so flippant, but is it, I don't remember approving 5 trips at the same time. And it looked, I was like, oh boy, 5 trips all at one time. And I do worry about students who need $2,000 or $3,000 to go to any one of these. You know, $2,000 split up is not gonna make it for any one of these. So it really does not allow students who are struggling to participate in this. And especially when it's become a bigger and bigger part of what we can offer. And, you know, Jonah was next to me and calmed me down, but I actually sometimes wonder about tacking on $500 per student for all 4 years and having a overseas fund per student. Anybody and everybody can go, and it would not be extra. I mean, we can do $2,000 over a course of 4 years, right? $500 per person. And it would be sort of a escrow amount for foreign travel that everybody would be have available to them.
Okay.
I know that is not probably wise.
I was gonna say you're not germane.
Yeah, no.
Well,
no.
I'm just trying to figure out how to extend this to the families and the kids that really can't afford it, and you know, maybe they get, you know, $500 scholarship for a particular program, but that doesn't cover it.
Well, and some of these trips are over $3,000
That's
for a
what I mean.
single
It
trip.
doesn't cover it.
But they're also doing the fundraising, so I'm assuming,
Which we have some issues with too. We're
Right.
trying very hard not to send our kids out to be beating up the community. It's already very generous to us.
Right.
And
Okay,
so-
we still have to have an executive session, and I think, Jean, you made the motion to approve the first 4 trips, because you still haven't had your chance to talk about Galapagos.
We're getting there though.
I know, and I don't think anyone seconded that, that motion.
Kim did.
Oh, Kim, you did,
Yeah, she
okay,
did.
thank you. And so we had our discussion, so, is there any other burning last-minute things you have about those first 4 trips? Okay, then all in favor of approving the French trip, Dominican Republic, Italian, and Denmark trip, say aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
I
One
just-
abstent,
I did too.
2 abstentions. So where does that leave us, because the ayes have it?
It's a majority
Yeah.
of people present. so-
Yeah, so we have to go with this one. Okay, Jean, let's talk, do I have a motion to talk about the Ecuador Galapagos trip?
Motion to approve.
To approve.
Move.
Second.
Okay.
So I have two concerns with this one. We've been dancing around, this is almost a $4,000 trip. I don't think high school kids need to go to Galapagos. I think there's lots of opportunities that are half that cost for AP Bio. And when I looked at the description, it's like 4.5 days in the Galapagos. And the activities there are bike riding, swimming, snorkeling, pizza, seeing the tornadoes. I mean, and the other thing is that this has got a component where they're gonna get a half a credit because they're gonna do some other work. It's just something we've never, it's got two issues. One is, we haven't really talked about the go out and learn half credit. I really don't wanna get to a point where you get a half credit because mom and dad can afford to pay $4,000 for you to go to Galapagos. And the other one is it doesn't, so one is that the academic piece, I don't have enough information to feel comfortable approving it for the half credit. And the other one is, I think it's just too much money. It's just, we're just getting out of control on what we're asking families and the community and everything, so I can't support that.
And if they, the biology class has gone somewhere in the past, if I remember. Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And how much did that cost?
It was pretty reasonable, I think. It was.
Like 2,500.
And why are they switching for so much more money?
This is so this is the first attempt to do a large-scale goal project. And in terms of approving the credit, there is a committee that approves credit or denies credit. And so they've presented to that group, they've been approved by that group. But the money is a separate issue. And my suggestion would be, if you're not comfortable, we ask somebody who can answer these questions much better than I, somebody from the committee, somebody planned the trip, to come and address you and answer those questions next month's meeting, and then make the decision if you're uncomfortable approving it right now. I do not feel as though I can advocate for it well enough, given that I was not involved in the creation of this.
Yeah, I think any of the trips are, always bring up question, and if it's not ones we've done before, that it's helpful information when you see the magnitude of thought and education that goes into the planning, so I think that's a good idea. Is there a time, if we waited till next month, what does that do for the time frame?
My understanding is, the reason I brought them all here is that if we had to do what we're doing, perhaps, that it would still work, timing-wise.
Well, I guess one of the chief questions I'm gonna have, because even if they could come and tell me it's the most perfect thing in the world and absolutely worth half a credit, it's still a $4,000 trip. And so I'm still gonna probably vote no for it. But my question would be, why can't you do the same academic issues for $2,500, you know,
Okay.
someplace?
So does this mean we
We can
table
table
this? We'll table this to a presentation next month by,
Yeah.
And if anybody, in addition to Jean, has specific questions, you want to email them to me, I'll pass them on to the group to
Okay.
be prepared.
so do we have to have a motion to table?
I think so.
Move to table.
Move to table? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, great. Appointment of principal, what is this? I know what it is, but I don't, do we do it here, or is it an executive session?
I think.
It depends how much you want to get into it. If it's just a matter of I make the recommendation to you and you want to take the vote and there's not a lot of discussion, then it can be an open session. If there are specific things that you want to know about that might be getting into people, then we should do executive session.
Since we have an executive session anyway, maybe we should.
Yes, we should really need to
So
get into it.
let me make the recommendation, and then you can move it into executive session. So I am recommending that the CVU board hire Adam Bunting as your next principal.
Okay, and we will discuss that in executive.
Postpone it, yep.
We'll postpone it into executive session. Okay, so do I have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we just have confirmation of our next CVU board meeting. Please note it is the second Tuesday in April, not the third, because it's falling during spring break. So then our April meeting is at 7 o'clock, April 14th. Okay, now do we have to move out of here?
You need a motion to go into executive session.
Yep. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we gotta move to another room.